Alright, thank you for watching another of my videos. Today we're going to put a 5th and 6th generation rear wheel on a 4th generation VFR. So the first thing I do is I mark between the lugs a little white line using a paint pencil, and I know that my gap has to be at least 12 millimeters wide and a ½ inch deep. So I start my cut on the thickest part of the wheel. If you look at the rear wheel, you'll see that there's one spot where two spokes come together and the aluminum's much thicker than the other three where you'll be cutting later. I always do the hardest first. It makes me feel like the job goes by easier once the hardest one's out of the way, and it gives me a good tool resource to look at when I'm cutting the other ones to make sure that I'm getting the other ones deep enough. So I basically have my Nikita grinder, and I have a metal wheel on there, and I'm just grinding the aluminum away. You really can't mess this up. It's nothing you can screw up, and it doesn't hurt the wheel at all. If you do screw it up, you and the guy who changes the tires are the only two people who are ever going to see this. Once the wheel is mounted on the motorcycle, it's virtually impossible to tell that you made any cuts on the wheel. So I have a pretty good cut in there right now, and I just grabbed my micrometer, and I'm just going to measure my depth and make sure that I get it close to where it needs to be. And I'm almost there. I just need to take out a little bit more. So any of you who are thinking about doing this, there really is no downside to buying yourself a 5th or 6th generation VFR wheel and putting it on your 4th generation VFR. The bonus is you have a huge selection of tires available to you when you run a wider rear tire. I'm sure when you're shopping for tires, you've noticed that the 170s are getting more and more difficult to find. Kind of like with the 160s. It just seems like the 160s and 170s are being slowly phased out. So this gives you a huge selection to choose from, and usually the 180/55 series tires are a little bit cheaper, $5–10 cheaper than what the 170 is. And as a bonus, this rear wheel looks much better on the back of your 4th generation VFR than that rounded off, kind of half thought out rear wheel that Honda put on back in 1994. Now if you're fortunate enough to get a 3rd generation VFR wheel, good for you, because the 8-spoke rear wheel really looks great on any VFR. But if you can't, you know, these 5th and 6th generation rear wheels can be had for about $200 most places. Sometimes if somebody has them for more money, you can haggle them down, because there's really not a huge market of people out there buying 5th and 6th generation VFRs rear wheels, but there sure are a bunch of them getting crashed up. So there's no shortage of these rear wheels laying around in salvage yards. So we're just about done now with our final grind, and if you look at the notches, they're all pretty close. Like I said before, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to fit over those bolts that hold your brake rotor on. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to put the wheel on the hub, and I want to make sure that I don't have any gaps. So when I'm looking at the wheel touching the brake rotor, I want to make sure there's absolutely no gaps. There's nothing. There's not a space. There's not a hair. It's perfectly flush with the brake rotor. And once you've done that, then you're good to go. Thanks for watching my video.